Okay, this will be a video where I rant. English is not my first language, it's my fourth language, so I will make a lot of grammatical errors, but be patient. Okay, Stoll will speed me to this, but I have already compiled images, so let's go. Okay, your whole video is a continuum fallacy. It's in fact a well-known logical fallacy, and it was made by Franz Boas many times. He committed a lot of times, and the same question that you asked or want to have answered regarding a quantifiable, specific, detailed traits that makes one group distinct from the other. This applies from between Homo sapiens and sapiens, and Homo erectus and Homo africanus as well. There is no distinct, really definable, quantifiable, phenotypical difference in soft tissue and hard tissue between Neanderthals and Homo erectus and Homo africanus and Homo sapiens sapiens, and even gorillas. Now, of course, there are a tendency that we have different skull shapes, but this applies to human races as well, and we will get into that later on. But at least on soft tissue, you can't really quantify that or make the groups distinct. So therefore, does this mean that there's no such thing as Homo sapiens sapiens, or Neanderthals, or Homo erectus, or gorillas for that matter? Of course not. The continuum fallacy can be applied to mountains and hill. What is a hill? What is a mountain? It's just a continuation. Let's see, what else can we talk about? We can talk about share. What is a share? What exact quantifiable specific features does it have that makes it a share? There's a lot of weird modern shares today. Talk about the light. Light is just or colors. It's just a different waves of light, length of light. What is purple? What is blue? What is red? What is orange? Because it's not distinct, does that mean that there's no such thing as color? Of course not. What is heat? What is cold? Although there has been an attempt to make this classification, the Beaufort scale regarding wind, it's still arbitrary. What is a light breeze? What is a hurricane? The attempt to quantify it by the Beaufort scale is it's arbitrary. How many wheats does it take to form a heap? 3, 7. Because there's no specific number, there can be no heap. That is essentially the faulty logic. What is loud? What is silent? How will I ever know? What is tall and what is short? Because it's just a continuation and the classification is arbitrary. This man is not tall and this man is not short. What is atmosphere? What is the troposphere or the mesosphere? Because it's a continuation and there's no distinct line, it doesn't exist. What is a lake? What is a pond? What is an ocean? What is a forest? What is the quantifiable differences? Give me the specifics. What is slow? What is fast? Therefore, slow and fast doesn't exist. Where does exactly this beach end and the ocean begin? I mean, exactly. Give me the distinction. Let's talk about hair, for an example. Now, is there such a thing as beards? I mean, just a continuation of length of facial hair, so therefore it doesn't exist, really. That brings me to chimpanzees. When, humans can be hairy as well, so both regarding the face and both regarding the body, so is the quantifiable specific distinction between Homo sapiens sapiens and chimpanzees and bonobos the amount of hair? No, it isn't. It isn't. It isn't. So when you take away the hair of a chimpanzee or a bonobo, because there's chimpanzees and bonobos that don't have a lot of hair, what exact quantifiable distinction, specific distinction, can you make in the phenotype or find in the phenotype that makes us humans and them chimpanzees? Give me the specifics. Bald. When is a person bald? I mean, when does a person have short hair? When does a person have long hair? Give me the specific distinction. And because there is no distinction, there's no such thing as being bald. There's no such thing as having short hair or long hair, right? Or how about women? Women, too, have facial hair. Now, it's just shorter, it's just thinner, but is that a beard? Is that having a beard? And Assuming you're heterosexual, I guess you find female faces more attractive. Why do you find them more attractive? I mean, give me the quantifiable specific details that makes a one face a female face and another face a male face. Give me the specifics, and if you can't find it, well, does that mean that it isn't there? No, it just means that our brain is hardwired in a way to see things on a really complex scale. We can find several details in a face that we're not consciously aware about and can't even consciously comprehend. Let's talk about age. When does a person look old? When does a person look young? When does old and young begin? What it is, and because there is no distinction, it's just a continuum, then I guess there's no such thing as old and young. Let's talk about animals for a bit. Let's talk about two breeds of squirrels and bears. What is the quantifiable differences? Given the specifics. I mean, they're two different breeds, both of them, both within the species. Is it just melanin in their hair? Because that doesn't fly for humans, so how come it flies for animals? Let's talk about dogs. Now, dogs were bred specifically to do certain things and look a certain way. Now, there's less mtDNA difference between dogs, wolves, and coyotes than there is between the various ethnic groups of human beings, which are recognized as a single species. They can create fertile offspring and so forth, yet they look quite differently and they behave quite differently. So apparently there doesn't need to be a whole lot of difference for there to be differences, okay? For example, this might shock you, but men and women are genetically more genetically more similar to each other than are two males of two different races. And again, what matters is clustering gene frequency. And we're more similar to other species than we are different to other species. Okay, that's the continuum fallacy. Now, I just want to point out as well that anti-racists know damn well what a white person is when it is detrimental for whites. Okay, so let's strip people of their melanin. Let's talk about albinos. Can you tell what a black albino is, what a white albino is, and what an Asian albino is? Here's the first group. Now, what race were they? Here's the second group. Now, what race were they? And here's the third group. What race were they? Okay, let's compare some images here. Again, it's not about melanin, because here's a pale Japanese girl and a tanned white person. Likewise, the liberal professors that created the implicit association test, they separated between light-skinned black and dark-tanned white. And in this crowd of blondes, can you tell who is Asian and who is white? Now, of course, it might be hard when we are comparing two individuals, such as Europeans or Arabs, but when you're talking about big groups of people, it shouldn't be hard at all to tell what race they belong to. That brings us to features, which was what you were talking about. This may be a bit controversial, but you asked for it. In Erectus Walks Amongst Us, the author did something that has been done throughout history, racial classification based on phenotype, and this can be found in the Greco-Roman Moretum. In it, you can find quantifiable differences, such as in hard tissue and soft tissue. Blacks tend to have more simian-like features. Our cranium craniums are differently shaped, as can be read in Race: The Reality of Human Differences by Vincent Sarish. There's more bigger cranium differences between human races than there is between the races of chimpanzees. Again, blacks tend to have more simian-like features. However, there are exceptions, such as the Eastern African Somalis. However, there's another thing there. They are 40% Caucasoid in ancestry. Now, this is Carlton Kuhn. Now, he classified also the different groups of peoples in around the world based on phenotype. So, if you want more information there, I mean, yes, people within the white race look quite different from each other sometimes. However, they too have been categorized. So there are branches and sub-branches to be read in his works if you'd like. Now, I just want to point out also that it is an accurate science, as can be read here. The classification is really easy on the genetic level, and on the genetic level we seem to be quite distinct, and the phenotype corresponds to the genetic differences or dissimilarities, and it corresponds to the continent of our origin. So the concept is pretty solid. Now, as French Elements also was pointing out, if you paint a white person black, or if you paint a black person white, as with albinos, you can still tell what race the person is, so it's not about color. Likewise, when a person paints their face blue or whatever, you can still tell what race the person is. So again, it's not about color. And here's another example. This is 3 different races, of course, but they're painted as aliens, and I mean, it's pretty easy to tell who is what. I guess lastly, I'll just like to add that I guess it's a reductio ad absurdum of a sense. I've seen some commenters talking about, well, we all originate from the same origin, or we're all individuals, and that sort of thing. Yeah, and we all originate from bacteria, and we all originate from the Big Bang, and we're all made up out of atoms. That's really not how the world works. A tree made out of atoms, a bicycle made out of atoms. They have different dynamics, they have different impacts on the world. They're both made up and consist of the same building blocks, but in vastly different structures. In any way, yeah, a ridiculous video based on logical fallacy. So, yeah. Okay, so let's wrap this up. Let's drive the point home. There is no criteria for the existence of several useful but arbitrarily measurable concepts such as color, height, and natural environments to be distinct. That is to say, we consider them to exist, we know roughly what it is, and we can measure it somewhat. Although it is arbitrarily, it is measurable. However, it is not distinct. So the concept is 1. Still understandable, 2. Still useful and predictable, 3. Still arbitrarily measurable, although arbitrarily, 4. Still has a real peculiar dynamic and impact on the world, going back to 2, and 5, and thus exists, because it's understandable, it's useful and predictable, it is measurable, although arbitrarily, still has real peculiar dynamic and impact on the world, and thus it exists. Now the same goes for race. How this is somehow complicated for their little minds to understand puzzles me, as I wrongly assume humans have a somewhat similar grasp of logic and the world.